Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Conversations from Stritch. Today is November 30th, 2023, and I'm Dr. David Livingston, and I'm joined by Dr. Christopher Sent. It is really great to be with all of you. It has been a really busy week, and the next couple days are crazy as well. We did have our annual Christmas tree lighting on Monday, about 100 people, and here you can see some of our students helping me to push the button. Incredibly cold out there, so we kept it very short to try to keep people out of the cold, but we were also right afterwards able to go inside into the Darcy Great Room and hear some of the Christmas carols. Our chorale choir will be performing on Monday night. That'll come up later in the events upcoming, but boy, they were impressive, Chris.
They were so great
on Monday. It gets you in the season.
By the way, did you get a new hat?
I did get a new hat. You know where I got that hat? I got that hat when I was traveling this summer.
Oh.
I had to go to a wedding to Ireland, so it's an Irish wool hat.
Very fashionable. I think it was cool. Also, that was the best, but also the shortest tree lighting I've been to since I've been here.
Agreed, and maybe the weather has something to do with it. So to stay in the spirit, both of us and our guest, we're grateful for, who we'll introduce later, we'll be at the faculty staff Christmas party this afternoon. So any of you who are watching that, come, even if you didn't RSVP, just come over to St. Charles Borromeo. We'll be in the flight deck, and maybe some people will, go outside with a drink. I tell you, the courtyard right behind the flight deck is really beautiful. They have lights on all the bushes there. I was there last night for an event. Actually, I was there last night for the Adam Smith lecture.
Oh, yeah.
And we honored Mary Lancaster, an amazing local, she's a leader at her accounting firm, a graduate from Lewis in 1988, and we were able to celebrate her and her accomplishments, and she just gave a great lecture to well over 100 students that were over there in the flight deck, so that was great. So in addition to the Christmas tree lighting, the Christmas party this afternoon, we have other things to celebrate tomorrow. Tomorrow we are officially, legally merging with St. Augustine College. It's a very exciting day. We've been working at this for well over a year. I think Dr. Gonzalez and I started meeting about a year and a half ago in the summer of 2022, and now we are right on the edge of getting this all done. There's a few little signatures that still have to be done this afternoon by both Dr. Gonzalez and I, but we're there. And then tomorrow night we'll both be at the President's Circle Dinner. Some people don't know what that is, but the President's Circle Dinner is an event in which we honor and thank those donors who donate at a certain level to student scholarships, to fund WLRA radio. We just had an event for that. So people who are giving to different parts of the organization. And it's just it's nice because it falls right after Thanksgiving, and what we're primarily doing is thanking them. And it's also kind of the first event in some ways of the holiday season, coupled with tonight's faculty and staff Christmas party. So the other thing I will say is yesterday we had a great community hour. I got to two events. I went to Mass, and then as soon as Mass was over, I scooted over to be with State Senator Rachel Ventura, who was discussing basically grass level politics. So what is it, she used to be on the Will County Board, and now she's a state senator, great member of the community, and she was talking to our students about how to get involved in campaigns, and she was so great about voting. One of the stats I remember is she said, the majority of the voters are over 65, but there are 4 times as many people under 25 that are able to vote as there are people over 65, but they don't vote at the same rate. So the power lies with older citizens, but she was just saying, if you wanted to change the world, if all of you voted, you would be able to change the world because there are more of you that are available.
Powerful.
So I was really impressed, and she's a great speaker, and so we're really glad to have her. She represents our district. So I know you're going to talk about some of the other great things that have been happening, and kind of awards and presentations by the community.
Yeah, it's really exciting, all the stuff that's going on this week, and I just want to say again how what a big accomplishment it is that this merger is completed. And I think you said it, I may have missed it, but the many of members of the St. Augustine community are coming to the Christmas party today, and so please, if you're there, please extend your very warm welcome and celebration of us all being together as one university tomorrow.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, I think you were not here the last time we talked about Morgan Jennings, but I think we talked about how we always talk about Morgan Jennings
Yes.
a few weeks ago on this program, and I'm going to do a little bit more of it again today. And this is really a little bit of a catch-up of what we talked about a few weeks ago. The Lincoln Academy of Illinois honored our student, Morgan Jennings, as the 2023 Student Laureate. In the spirit of Abraham Lincoln, student laureates are honored for their leadership and service on campus and beyond in pursuing humanities betterment and for excellence in curricular and extracurricular activities. So essentially, every university in the state of Illinois is allowed to pick one Lincoln Scholar, and they go down to Springfield and celebrate together, all of them together with their loved ones. And I know that Morgan went with Professor Dennis Kremen, who's her mentor and teacher supervisor in the History Center. And we talked a little bit about that a couple weeks ago. Among many accomplishments, she has immersed herself into sharing the historic African-American voices from Joliet's South End. For more than 2 years, she has played a significant role as the student coordinator of the Reclaiming the Narrative, Restoring Black Voices to the Story of Joliet exhibit. Another one of the projects Morgan has worked on is called 38 Miles North and South from Chicago, a comparative look at African-American history in Lake Forest and Joliet. This exhibit will be at the Joliet Area Historical Museum starting today and then through December 16th. And this afternoon, Morgan and Professor Kremen will host an open house from 4 to 6 p.m. there in Joliet. Afterwards, visitors can attend a program called Building a Place of Conscience from a Place of Incarceration, the National Register listing of the Illinois State Penitentiary at Joliet. So it's a really exciting project that they've been working on for years, coming to fruition. The senior capstone art exhibition will take place from December 7th through the 18th at the Wadsworth Family Gallery. The show features 4 graduating students, Shantan Brown, Alondra De La Torre, Jasmine Fairbanks, and Annabelle Garcia Silva. Some people may know, most people probably don't, that in our building, Stritch Hall, we now offer extra studio space for graduating seniors to finish their projects, and it's been really wonderful. We get to know them walking across the halls. To be honest, they often work when we're not here, late at night.
The only window up sometimes.
We see them as we're leaving. They're usually starting their work in the studio we have there in the building, and it's wonderful. So I look forward to celebrating the 4 of them.
And just to comment on that real quick, is that also means that the show that's up, if people haven't seen, we mentioned this last week, but it's the last day today before they put up the senior show, and it's the Chicago artists, and there's some really beautiful pieces up there. If you haven't been over, I highly recommend going over today, because they're taking the show down tomorrow.
Okay.
So anyway.
So the student art show coincides with the capstone course for graduating art students and challenges graduating students to put their newly acquired skills and understanding of art to the test by participating in this professional exhibition experience. A really great experience for our undergraduates in their last semester. So they will give a gallery talk. It's usually a panel of all the graduating students led by Professor Swain at 7 p.m. on December 7th. And then this weekend is the final weekend for 4 plays for course actors written by Michael Green, continuing in the Philip Lynch Theater. That's tonight through a Sunday matinee. I'm going to go tonight after the basketball game and after the Christmas party. Really fun.
Big night.
Nonstop fun today. And just to remind you, since several people have seen the play already, I'm sure, but a course actor is an amateur actor who knows their lines, but not always in the right order, is the quote from the author of the play, Michael Green. So it should be a really fun play. I've heard it's a really fun and funny play, and I look forward to seeing it tonight. So more events?
More events to talk about. We have a lot of exciting events going on. I will say we have, as was already said, some events going on in terms of art, but we also have a couple events happening in terms of the Wadsworth Family Reception Room. The Jet Fuel Review release party is happening, and that's happening November 30th, so actually tonight, this afternoon from 4 to 5:30. So after you go to the party, you can stop over to that. Women's basketball hosts Drury tonight. Chris said he was going to go to that game. And then men's basketball is hosting Drury tonight at 7:30. There's also the No Sabo Language Identity Latinidad, which is a group of people that are talking about this kind of sense of feeling on the outs or feeling not appropriate because they grow up in a Hispanic family, but they don't speak Spanish as well. There's board games going on tomorrow from 2 to 6 in the Red Room, and the Psychology Club's also meeting tomorrow from 2 to 4. And then we have other events, International Graduate Student Graduation Celebration in the Flight Deck tomorrow from 6 to 8. We have mock trial tournament that's happening in Benilde this weekend, as well as women basketball and men's hosting Southwest Baptist. We have a Latin Dance Club movie night that's happening December 4th, as well as I already mentioned, that the chamber choir is singing on Monday night. And I'm really disappointed. I'm going to be out of the country next week, so I'm going to miss a lot of events actually next week. But one of my favorite events of the year is the chamber choir concert, and this year, unfortunately, I'm going to miss it. If you haven't been to it before, I would highly recommend going to that event. What I love about it, it not only features the chorale, the Lewis Chorale Choir, but it also features different kind of trios or quartets. Some of I think there's a rock band piece in this year's show, so they'll do different things, and it's a really fun holiday celebration. So, Chris, you're going to introduce our guest.
I am. I'm going to do a couple things first, which is that you just mentioned that we have some sports action that
yes,
I think
we
you
do have
were going to.
Sports action. You're correct.
Do you want to do
but
it?
I didn't. Oh yeah. Let me talk about those.
And look behind you if.
Oh,
if
look
you,
behind. Oh my gosh! Look behind me. What's the score? Oh, we're down. That's not good.
It's just begun.
All right, 5-2. We're currently men's soccer. I'm sorry, I forgot about all the athletics. There's too much stuff going on. So athletically, soccer plays tomorrow against U Indy. This is the third round of the NCAA tournament, so we're in the round of 16. What's amazing to me, we've been talking about it the other day, is that 4 of the 16 remaining teams are all from the GLVC. So our conference is incredibly well, they're being overrepresented in terms of, I think, the 21 conferences around the country, that 25% of them are coming from our conference. So unfortunately, we're playing UIndy for the third time this year. Women's volleyball is playing right now, and if I look back up at the score, it's 5-3 against Rockhurst in the first set. So got a long match to go, and hopefully the women will pull this out. They are picked to win this game, but that's just rankings that are based on the season. So men's and women's swimming teams are competing in a meet with Valpo and Butler on Friday at 5 at Valparaiso. And then there's a bunch of other athletics that will be coming up over the next couple of weeks. Before we, as we were talking on the way over, Chris, we're wrapping up the season for men's volleyball or women's volleyball and men's soccer, and we're just going to be starting the seasons. We are starting the season on basketball, both teams swimming, as well as coming up for men's volleyball. So now we're going to invite our guest to join us. So,
yeah,
Chris?
I'm really excited to introduce our guest. And as always, before I do that, let me remind you that if you have a question for our guest or for us during the course of the show, please use the askus@lewisu.edu email, and we can get the question into the conversation. Also, if you're watching the recorded version of this on YouTube, you can also continue to use that email, and we can get the question to our guests, after the show is over, and get a response to the question that way as well. So I'm very, very excited and pleased to introduce Javier Garibay, who was raised in Gary, Indiana, the son of immigrant parents from Mexico. He has a doctorate from Wayne State University in educational policy, 2 master's degrees, and a bachelor's degree from Purdue Northwest in political science. He's worked at Wayne State University Center for Chicano Boricua, thank you. Studies, Chicano Boricua Studies as assistant director, where he spearheaded Latino recruitment and retention efforts. Later, he spent 20 years working for a major for-profit management company in various capacities, including as a school leader at Cesar Chavez Academy, superintendent, and later vice president for growth and development. In Chicago, he worked at Central States SER as executive director, providing workforce training and expanding career choices for opportunity youth in employment and education. Javier has been the director of the Institute for Workforce Education at St. Augustine College since 2021. So welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful to
I'm
be
glad
with
to
you
be here.
here. Yeah,
Very
it's so
excited.
great to be able to.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, Javier. We really appreciate you taking the time. So let me just maybe start very generally, Javier, with, we might get back into some of your background, but can we start with what the Institute for Workforce Education is, and especially who it serves? Because one of the things that I will say, we just talked about how tomorrow the legal closing is happening. One of the really exciting things for me is that there are things that St. Augustine does educationally that we just don't do at all. And the Institute for Workforce Education is one of those. So it really enhances, the combined partnership really enhances us as a university. So could you talk a little bit about who the students are, what they're learning, that kind of stuff, just generally?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm truly very excited. We're excited about the merger, both not only at SAC, but also at the Institute for Workforce Education. The population that we serve are primarily adults. And the focus of what we do is to provide workforce training, and that takes on a variety of different ways. We do incumbent worker training. These are individuals who work for companies anywhere in Illinois. A company will contact us and say, listen, we need some professional development for our staff and for our workers. It could be line workers, it could be supervisors. And we do a little analysis of what some of those needs are. It could be something with technology, how to do Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoints, whatever the needs are for that company. It could be how to be a better forklift driver. It could be how to be a better, improve writing skills. We also do a variety of other workshops on diversity, sexual harassment, whatever the issues are for that particular company. So we work with a lot of small companies, businesses throughout Illinois. So geographically, it doesn't matter where that is. We own about 250 curriculum that we have in our possession that we own, that we can deploy at any time. And so the workshop that I described to you is just a small segment of what we're able to deliver. The wonderful thing about the work that we do at the Institute for Workforce Education is that we can also deploy that training in Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, or Polish. And so there are needs in Chicago for different multilingual opportunities. So we're able to do that. So we have a cadre of instructors that we can use to deploy that training. Another exciting thing that we do at the Institute in terms of training, not only for incumbent workers, is working in pre-apprentice programs. It's wonderful for individuals, and we encourage people. I have 2 daughters, one who's a teacher, another one who's in nonprofit, working, by the way, in workforce as well in Dearborn, Michigan. And they decided both to go to college. We have a segment in our population who may not want to go to college, who may want another career path. And so for that, we have workforce. We believe increasingly that there's there's dignity in work,
Yeah.
right?
It's very Catholic social teaching. I mean, we all have been in the Catholic world
Yeah.
for our entire careers. I know you have a long background in the Catholic Church, but that notion of dignity of work is central to Catholic social teaching.
It is, and I'm happy to be affiliated with now a Catholic institution that will honor that concept. And so we have adults ages 18 until however old who might be interested in our programming, and so we provide pre-apprentice training in construction, electrical, increasingly solar power. We're looking at some other possibilities, perhaps in concrete, masonry. And so we have those programs throughout Illinois.
So could you,
Can
well, go ahead.
Can
Chris.
can I just ask some, I have a million questions, but some clarifying questions about what you just said. So what is a pre-apprentice?
Okay. A pre-apprentice is an individual who has expressed an interest in perhaps becoming an electrician.
Like, so maybe they don't have a job in a company right now.
Sure.
But they want to become an electrician.
Yes, so we have individuals who may be working full-time, because many of our programs are in the afternoon or evening. We do also have cohorts in the morning hours. So you might have somebody who just working 40 hours a week, will come to us at 4 or 5 or 6 in the evening and receive training. These trainings typically last for 3 months. They this year was particularly exciting because we had larger numbers of women participating in our pre-apprentice programs. And I'll shortly describe where some of those pre-apprentice programs are and who our partners are. And so they typically are urban workers, blue-collar workers, individuals some of them who are out of work, but who understand that, okay, so I don't have a bachelor's degree, but I need to upskill. And so we provide those skills necessary for them to get a Department of Labor job or enter into an apprenticeship program.
Okay.
So that's what pre-apprentice is. We're getting them ready to enter into a union apprenticeship program. So this is kind of like the first step, a segue into that opportunity.
That's wonderful. And then what is one more question. What is an incumbent worker?
An incumbent worker is an individual who is currently working, let's say at a factory or at a business. So they're employed, working 40 hours a week. And so the business representative, the owner of that business will call us and say, listen, we would like some additional training for our workers. And they might be line workers, they could be supervisors, any one of a variety of different individuals working at that factory or that business.
Like 20 at a time? Or
it
one
all
at a time?
varies.
Okay.
They can be as small as 5, or they can be as many as 30 or 40 or 50.
Okay.
It all depends what the need is.
Yeah.
So Javier, we just had a question come in through the Ask Us, and again, I'll just mention to people, if you want to send a question in, ask us at lewisu.edu. And it's related, and you may have already answered it, but I'm going to just restate it because it was asked. So can an individual on their own take advantage of IWE, or does it have to be kind of through an employer? Can they just if somebody watching were to be like, oh, I've always thought about being an electrician, and and I'd like to hear you talk a little bit more about this 3 months. So let's say I'm working and we have a lot of warehouses around here. I'm working in an Amazon warehouse right now. I'm a 32-year-old. I always thought it would be good to maybe get in the union and become an electrician, but I thought, how am I ever going to do that, right? So can they, as an individual, can Dave Livingston, who's working at Amazon just down the road, call IWE and say, can I get into a program to become, can I do a pre-apprentice program, or do I need somebody to sponsor me, or how does that work?
Yeah, so with our pre-apprentice programs, it's fairly straightforward. And I also want to emphasize that there's no cost associated with these programs, with these experiences, right? It's not just a program, it's the experience. And so they could contact us directly, either through our Facebook campaigns, or they can call us directly or email us. We'll get back to them. These programs are enormously popular. And so we get a lot of these individuals expressing an interest. Some of these jobs, I will tell you, pay very well. And so the whole purpose, of course, is to give them a pre-apprentice experience, right? So the first few weeks, they get some theoretical concepts. There's an emphasis on math. There's an emphasis on measurement. There's an emphasis on soft skills training, right? The kinds of things that employers are looking for. And also toward the end of the program is what we call the practicum, right? Where they start using the tools and the resources so that they know what an electrician does, what somebody in solar power does, what someone does in mechanical maintenance does. So we have all that equipment at our sites so they learn how to use power tools and equipment and measuring tools.
So can I ask, so what's the, I guess in my world, what I think about is placement rates, right?
Yeah.
So, because I'm thinking
Good question.
functionally somebody graduates, so they do this 3-month thing, right? And I want to follow up on, can I do this 3-month thing while I have a full-time job, or do I have to quit my job in order to do this? And then second, what I get done with the 3 months, I've been working at Amazon, if I assume I keep my job, what's the likelihood that one of the unions going to pick me up?
Great question. Great question. The answers are yes and yes. You can work full time and take advantage of some of our afternoon and evening pre-apprentice programs, right?
Okay.
We do, when someone contacts us online or on Facebook or through email, there is an interview process because we want to make sure if we're going to invest time, our 3 months, in all our energies and our personnel to get you trained for this experience, we want to make sure, we want to get a commitment out of you, right? I always tell folks, listen, I don't want 4 years of your life. I don't want 3 years of your life. All I want is this 3 months of your life, 4 days a week, 4 hours a day for 4 days, right? Or 3 months. That's all we're asking, right? So yes, you can be working full time and then come to us in the afternoon for the training, right?
But it's a lot, but I'm going to give you 16 hours a week, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
4 days, 4 hours.
Yeah.
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
And then what are the odds that I'm going to get hired on as an apprentice in a union shop or something?
So we receive state dollars through the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO. And one of the outcomes, performance outcomes, is placement, right? And so so that is a very critical component to the grant, that they want to see placement. So it's in our interest, if we want to be renewed for the grant, that we're working very hard to make sure that the individual that comes into our program gets placed into a union position or an apprenticeship position, or gets into a Department of Labor approved job. We have an individual who is a job developer, and 100% of his time is dedicated to that individual, trying to place them into an apprenticeship program.
Okay.
So I'm happy to announce, certainly, and I'll talk shortly about some of the programs that we have, but we have a couple of programs here in Illinois where we've been extremely successful with placement, right? So the job developer will make calls to union shops, with employers. This is an individual that we have on board who's been a union electrician, so he'll call the plumbers union, he'll call the whatever union local is available to hire this individual. So we would call that a primary transition, an individual who's been placed into an apprenticeship program or into a Department of Labor job. So there's an incentive for us, if we want to continue the grant, to make sure that they're placed. And we've had tremendous success at IWE, and partly because of the work of this individual and the team in general.
So let me see if I can summarize a little bit about how this works from the big picture. So based on what you just said. So the Department of Commerce and the Department of Labor together decide what positions in the workforce generally are needed in our society or in our economy, and they provide funding to IWE through the Department of Commerce. In this example, I know there are lots of other funders we can get to. And that allows you to provide this pre-apprentice program for free to people who will then go into these jobs that the Department of Labor has already identified are needed in our society.
Yeah, so Governor Pritzker has been very generous. Construction is burgeoning right now in Illinois, right? Particularly with the infrastructure bill. So there's a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done on buildings and facilities and highways and bridges. And so the problem has been historically that many people of color, women, Native Americans, veterans, do not have access to this job, partly because of the skill gap. And so that really is one of the goals that we have, is to, we talk about the digital divide, there's also the skill gap divide, right? And so we want to make sure that we give opportunities to these communities who have been historically left out of these jobs, the necessary skills, the training, the technical assistance to be successful.
And that network of connections too, to get the job after the training is done.
That's correct. Because that, quite frankly, is one of the end goals.
Oh,
That's one of the
Absolutely.
performance standards of the grant, is that we need to have them placed. And like I said earlier, increasingly we have students who may not be interested, maybe like in the bachelor's program, that might be looking at something else. I think joining with Lewis University it's going to be such a wonderful experience for our community here, not only in Romeoville, but throughout Illinois, that gives young folks and adults, quite frankly, an opportunity to look at another segment of work. I believe that the work that we do at IWE is one of social justice.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
No doubt.
So I'd like to ask the two of you to make a couple comments. Let me ask this before we move on, because I want to get a little broader, and then I know we have other questions we want to ask. So somebody just asked online, are all these modules in person, or can you do some of the modules in the pre-apprentice online?
Most, I would say that 90 to 100% is done in person. Right?
Perfect.
And the reason for that is because, for example, in the practicum, so toward the end, we start with the theoretical, and then we end with the practical, right? We can't find a way to use a hammer virtually, right? So you sort of have to be there, right? You got to be there using the
Someday.
sure. Yeah, someday maybe.
I hope
Next year.
Using measuring tapes and power equipment, and they actually build trusses and floors and slide electrical through the 2x4s and all.
Right.
So you got to be there in person.
And they certainly don't want to show up on a job and never have done that in person.
I will say something else also in respect to the theoretical component, right? I think you learn by talking with other people, right?
Sure.
I was
and all those soft skills you talked about.
all the soft skills. I was a principal and educator in Detroit for many years, and I know that having that relationship with the instructor and seeing other people, you become a better solar power installer when you talk with other people, right? When you interface with other people, right? Yeah. So it's that interconnectivity, those social skills, when you're working together in a group, that I think you become a better electrician, solar installer, plumber, roofer.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So let me, I want to go a little bit higher, like, I don't know if we're going to go to 30,000 feet, but 10,000 for both of you, to just respond a little bit to, you were just saying how great the partnership could be. I think one of the things that maybe not all of our viewers understand is that one of the things that St. Augustine is going to do is, I guess, expand our reach into different types of students who Lewis University has not served, but St. Augustine has served well. And I want to, sometimes we've talked about now GED to DPT, or a doctoral preparation, right? That the Lewis University with St. Augustine College at Lewis University will be able to do that. So both of you you've been in educators for a long time, different parts of the business. Could you talk for our audience about kind of what that means, and especially what it means for the future of higher education, right? So in some sense, we're becoming a model, not only on the bilingual aspect or the multilingual aspect that IWE does, but on this notion of somebody could start with a GED or they could start an IWE, and they could come back later and get a master's degree, right? Or because they might want to run their own plumbing business.
Right.
So talk about that in terms of how you see the merger and how something like IWE plays into, I guess, a broader sense of what universities can become.
That's a great point, Dr. Livingston. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that this is going to be the only university in Illinois that will have a workforce component attached to the university, right? And so I think we need to meet adult learners where they're at, right? And so what I envision is having our students, our participants graduate from a pre-apprentice program and say, wow, this was easy. I can do this.
Yeah.
And by the way, maybe I can complete an associate's degree on Argyle in Chicago at St. Augustine, and then transition over to Lewis to complete my bachelor's.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a complete ecosystem, right? Not everybody, like I said earlier today, you know, wants to get a bachelor's degree or master's, and that's fine, but upskill, get a skill. But I think what this ecosystem does is it connects all the dots.
Right.
A young woman who is interested in solar installation, green energy, could start out at IWE, complete a three-month program, and then say, hey, listen, I really feel good about this. I'm going to get my associate's degree. Or maybe just go right directly to Lewis and get a degree in business and perhaps start their own solar installation company. There was one thing I was remiss in mentioning also, is that all our programs, at the end of the program, if it's in solar power, will receive a NAPCEP credential, which is a nationally recognized credential. So when you leave the program, that's I always tell folks, that's like your master's degree diploma. You can wave that to an employer and say, listen, I got myself a NAPCEP credential.
I was going to ask you about that earlier.
And those are very valuable.
You know, proof that you've got this
exactly,
training.
that you've gone through the process, you passed the exam, you went through the training. In construction and some of the other trades that I talked about earlier, there's an NCCER credential. I always forget what those credentials mean, so don't ask me. And that's also another nationally recognized credential. That means that this individual that went through the program, received all the theoretical training, all the practical training, and you know, took the exam, passed the exam, and is ready for the world of work. You know, these jobs, you know, out of the gate pay quite well.
Yeah.
In addition to those credentials, we also provide in all our programs, OSHA 10 training, flagger training. You know, the people you see on the highways with their flags. You know, those people go through a training process.
Yeah, sure.
And then also safety training, CPR.
Yeah.
So these are all stackable credentials for individuals entering our pre-apprentice programs, and also for our incumbent worker training programs too. They can elect to participate in those programs if their workers need that kind of training. I also want to mention before I forget that we don't do this by ourselves, right? Throughout Illinois, throughout Chicago, we have partners. There's an organization called HACIA. We partner with them. They're the lead agency, and we come in and do the training for them. Throughout Chicago, we're looking at surveyor training, for example, possibly for next year. To be a lead agency, HACIA is talking to other employers about what their needs are, and then they come to you or IWE and say, oh, well, I'm talking to 5 businesses, and they need writing help, or they need, you know, help with OSHA or whatever, and then you provide the training. Yeah, we come in. They're responsible for all the wraparound services, for recruitment, for marketing, and what we do is the value added that we provide is doing deploying the training. Right. Now there's been a bit of a paradigm shift recently, where now we're the lead agency. We're doing all the marketing, the recruiting, the onboarding, the training, the reporting. We're doing that in Aurora. We completed a very successful year in Aurora. We're doing the same thing in Grays Lake / Waukegan. And we're very excited that we're coming to Joliet, partnering with Lewis University.
Lewis.
As a matter of fact, that training is going to take place here. So we'll be working with what I call the greater Joliet community, Lockport, Romeoville, Joliet, and deploying that pre-apprentice construction program on the campus of Lewis University. So we're really excited
so
about
Chris,
that.
as the leader, as the academic leader, could you just frame this for me in terms of how you see it? I mean, you're kind of responsible for all learning on this campus. So,
okay, so I have 3 thoughts, and one of them is just that what Javier said was wonderful about how it's about having an individual having a lifetime relationship with a university. So it doesn't really, you know, we talk about it as a continuum, but of course a lot of it you can pick and choose when to do it. You can decide to use IWE in the middle of your career if you want to make a career change. And we have other certificates at Lewis that are similar in the way that they might be an interruption or a big life moment in your career. And what I love about us adding all of this is that it's shorter, it's more trial. It's not a huge 5-year degree that you have to commit to. And then we're adding that to our overall portfolio. So you could be at Lewis doing an IWE thing. 4 years later, you come back to Lewis, it's your partner for life, and you get a master's degree, or you decide to get a teaching credential, or whatever you need. And so it's more of a long-term relationship than a place where you get a degree.
Right.
That's one thing. The other thing that I love about IWE is that what you described is actually our mission.
Yes.
Our mission is, in so many ways, but what I mean at that core moment, what our core mission is providing education that combines liberal arts learning and professional practical experience. So, we call it a million different things, theory and practice, or, but what I think it's really good for our community to hear that to become an electrician, for example, you also need to use theory and combine high-level thinking and education with practical experience. So I think it will just that being repeated in so many different examples, I think is really healthy for all of us to think of it that way and apply that. And then the last thing is that we, as a university, have as a Catholic university, as a university with our particular mission, we have a responsibility to our community and our region to provide, to improve the lives of the members of our external community, whether that's the greater Joliet area or the Chicagoland area or what have you. But we do community engagement, we do research in the communities, we do placements in the whole range of different fields, from occupational therapy to teaching and so on. So I think IDWE just totally fits into that, where it's just another great way and to broaden the way that Lewis makes an impact in the community and provides economic opportunity and professional opportunity to so many people who are living in the community.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's awesome. It's just inspiring, to be honest. It is. We talk in our broader LaSallian mission about, going to the periphery and transforming lives to eventually transform the world. And that is what I hear that's what it is. It's going to some of the people who are underserved by the current system and who want an opportunity. And these are great opportunities. You're talking about, like you said, great jobs. Being an electrician, being a plumber, these are really great jobs that,
and working with the government to make it available for people who don't have the means
partnering
to make those switches in their lives.
Yeah.
I have more questions. Going back.
And we have like a few minutes.
Oh,
so
yeah, we're almost done.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I think just a couple more practical things. Could you just talk a little bit about the language? You mentioned there are 4 languages possibly, and they're done. We talk about St. Augustine a lot as a dual language or bilingual institution, but just based on listening to you today and before, I think what you're saying is you can be a Polish speaker and get this training in Polish entirely.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Certainly with the incumbent worker training, that grant allows us to do training in the worker's native language, right?
Okay.
But for our pre-apprentice programs, they are all done in English.
Okay.
And so that's important in pre-apprentice because of the work site, right? If you need to communicate some danger or you need to be able to have some facility in English, of course.
So could I just ask, just to follow up on that, because I think this is another key that we did not have before. So if somebody were in a situation they wanted to be in pre-apprentice, but they were not, English was not, they were not proficient in English. We have ESL, correct? And you know more about it than I do. So could you talk about, because I'm sure there could be somebody watching who has a cousin, and they might be a Spanish speaker, but they could be a Polish speaker, and they're working in a warehouse for Amazon, and they are like, man, I'd love to be an electrician, or my cousin knows I talk about being an electrician, but he speaks Polish, and they could take ESL, right, through St. Augustine, and then they could eventually be in, so talk about that, would you?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that question. Fortunately, San Agustin has a very robust ESL GED program. There's probably close to 800 individuals. And it's not done in a traditional format where you have semesters, and if you happen to inquire like in the middle of October, sorry, you got to wait till December. But it's a rolling program. You can enroll at any point in the school year, winter, summer, spring, fall, and you can start at any point because it's all done virtually.
Right.
So if we have a candidate who comes to us and they're Vietnamese speaking, Polish speaking, they say, we would love to be part of the pre-apprentice program, but I don't speak English well. Well, we can enroll them with Elvina Hargrave's program at San Agustin. They can get enrolled immediately, online, virtually, at any point in the continuum, and take those skills, English skills that are required to become proficient and enter into our pre-apprentice program.
That's so great.
So
to hear.
it's a very complete ecosystem, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to leave anybody behind.
Yeah, I love it.
Right? And again, it gets back to that issue of social justice.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that we're equitable for populations that have been underserved. And so that's what makes, and I get chills thinking about that, what makes this ecosystem and this partnership, and now being a part of the Lewis University family,
Yeah.
so exciting for us at IWE.
Wonderful. Well, we are out of time.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. I have a lot
thank
more
you, Javier.
questions.
Well, thank you
we
for
can-
inviting.
Maybe a year from now or whatever, we'll have you back, or Alejandro back, or
Yeah.
some group back, or maybe a student. We'd love to,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
have one of your pre-apprentice students with you on a program. in
We'd
the
love to
future.
do that.
I just want to say to everyone again, remember. Party this afternoon, 3 to 6. If you're an employee, a staff member, please join us. We're excited. Tomorrow, again, the merger closing. But just, I guess I just want to say to you, Advent is nearly upon us. This weekend, we'll start that celebration of a month of really focusing on this notion that God is with us. So I hope you all enjoyed a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you will enjoy the entire Advent season leading into Christmas. And of course, for our students, I know you have projects, papers, tests that are it's a stressful time of year in those ways. So enjoy the next couple weeks. I will not be here next week because I'll be out of town, but Chris will be here next week for a great show talking about commencement that is coming up. So many blessings to you and all those that you love. Have a great week.